I'm John Walsh, and I've dedicated my entire life to locking up the worst criminals.
America's Most Wanted is back. This is on TMZ live on the Fox network. A little promo on Monday, January 22nd, 2024 for the rebooted America's Most Wanted, starring John Walsh, of course, and with his son. Not the son that had his head cut off and that, I'm going to allege that John Walsh is still a suspect in that kid's murder. We'll get to that. But a different son.
Since 1988, we've caught 1,191 fugitives.
Copaganda is back. Following America's Most Wanted, they broadcast a new show from TMZ, Obsessed and Dangerous, Hollywood's Stalker Crisis. And I guess there is a crisis. There are weirdos who stalk celebrities. That has always been a thing. I think A-list celebrities can afford security, Brad Pitt or whatever. I wouldn't say this is a crisis, but if you're, somewhat successful TV actor and you're making $300,000 a year before having to pay taxes and your agent and everything, then yeah, maybe you can't afford security. There's John Walsh. In the shadows, you can only see his eyes are lit up. And he's being interviewed by TMZ with his fail son. Harvey Levin. TMZ is a right-wing status quo show, obviously. Harvey is there with his best guy, his main guy, talking with John Walsh and his main guy, his son. And, of course, they go back to Adam Walsh. There's that picture that has been shown 1 billion times, a young Adam Walsh before his beheading in his baseball uniform holding a baseball bat. And then some commercials come on, local spots. For Adam Gerke, you got to like him. Get Up with Good Day Seattle on KCPQ 13. This guy has been around on this station for decades, so good for him. I mean, local TV news and most local TV content is garbage, but Jack in the Box has some kind of orange thing. All fast food is orange, isn't it? Especially Chick-fil-A. They're pouring some orange and white goop onto a orange-looking chicken fillet. Seattle Home and Garden Show, Emerald Queen Casino, big advertiser on local TV, huge revenue source. It's the Puyallup tribe of Indians. And then Fox tonight, Adam Walsh. There's Adam walking with a flashlight. Close-up of his feet. And then going back to 1988, to the original America's Most Wanted, shots of criminals being apprehended and Adam walking confidently. There he is on a bust. There he is talking to the sheriff. He's always wearing his leather jacket. It's not actually a cop. And guess what? Now, America's Most Wanted is back. Look at all the families they've reunited. They show Elizabeth Smart. Okay, we'll get to her in a second, unbelievably. And there's Adam's son walking in slow motion confidently. There they are, wielding flashlights. There's more cops. Ooh, a bad guy smashed in a windshield. And, of course, they're going to talk about a Hispanic couple who got in trouble and are wanted. The premise of the original show, again, this is before the widespread use of the internet and online activity, is that you would call this hotline, right? And then you give, and our tips have resulted in hundreds of arrests, right? And that's kind of, they're not even trying to do that this time, although there's a set for this show where you see people on working the phones in the background, which is obviously fake. And, okay, new opening sequence, slightly revised logo. America's Most Wanted.
Better listen now. Are you going to be in a cell? In the police hotel?
Whatever, dude. We know all about that. most widely publicized unsolved murder. So Adam and his son are wearing collarless, zippered, open leather jackets. They're sitting at what appears to be a news desk with the mom of one of the victims. And then commercial break. Well, who would advertise on this, copaganda? Progressive Insurance. Wow, I've never seen that ad before. Try Align Probiotic Bloating Relief. Plus food digestion. Number one doctor recommended brand. Great graphic of some intestines with some stuff moving through them. Helps relieve occasional bloating, and then with an asterisk and then fine print. Mucinex. Always offensive. It's supposed to, their mascot is this ugly piece of snot in the form of a humanoid character with human characteristics, except no nose. Repulsive. Medifacts. Healthcare information. I believe that's one of those, alternatives to Medicare. NFL, Rob Lowe. Okay, Fox has to promote a bunch of its shows. Rob Lowe is the host of a show called The Floor. The Cleaning Lady, another show. Alert, Missing Persons Unit. Yet another Fox show. Suddenly we go back and we're talking with Elizabeth Smart. For those that don't know, she was kidnapped as a teenager by a religious maniac and his wife, and she was raped repeatedly every day for a year. Mysteriously showed up a year later, discovered at a party in Salt Lake City, Utah. The conspiracy theory is that they knew where she was, but she had to give birth to that guy's baby before she could return to civilization. And there she is. I don't know if she's standing and the other two guys are sitting, but she's much taller, it appears, than the Walsh clan.
Pretty strong survivor, and someone I'm really proud to work alongside in the fight to make this world a safer place for all of us.
Well, thank you for highlighting me 20 plus years ago, and thank you for having me back today.
So there is a shot of her as a 12-year-old, pathetic exploitation. And then, this is incredible, they cut to a image of an original suspect that was cleared, this guy. There's a photo of him, maybe a mugshot, cleared in the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart. No context, no explanation. They just showed this guy. And again, these people all are benefiting from studio lighting, professional makeup and wardrobe. And Elizabeth Smart looks good. What is she now? 20, 30, early 30s. And why on earth they're bringing her back is one of those sensational stories that tabloid media couldn't get enough of, kind of like the John Benet Ramsey thing. That's just awful. Now, before I let you go, I want to talk about Stephen Chao. He's the producer and co-creator of America's Most Wanted and Cops. I think his mom was like some kind of Ivy League professor. He grew up in New Hampshire from an illustrious Chinese family, got out of Harvard and went to work for the National Enquirer. So he's got this tabloid journalism in his blood. We all love that. And then he got hired by Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation. They purchased Fox, and they started a TV channel, Fox TV. You might remember The Simpsons or Married with Children. All these, they kind of made a name for themselves being a little edgier than the average garbage, mundane 3 networks, they were going to compete against. Hugely successful. Chao's first success from Wikipedia was in his head for years after seeing Most Wanted posters at the post office. He labeled the concept electronic lynching. That became America's Most Wanted. Then he met producer John Langley, who pitched a concept of following cops around and filming them beating on people and abusing people. And that show became, of course, Cops. Now, a few years later, in 1992, he was giving a presentation for Rupert Murdoch and a couple bigwigs and Rupert's wife. And he hired a male model to strip naked during the speech to illustrate his point about censorship. Again, I'm kind of cribbing that from Wikipedia, although I remember reading about it at the time. And Rupert Murdoch's wife didn't like that, and he was fired soon after. And finally, Wikipedia says, this might be bullshit. Right after being fired, he got a job at McDonald's in Redondo Beach, California for 6 weeks. Wow, that must have been tough for a multimillionaire. He claimed it was the hardest job he ever had. The end of a hot streak, July 5th, 1992. The model exposed himself and stood naked for 30 seconds. As he exposed himself, Chao grinned at the media baron's wife, Rupert Murdoch's wife, and said, "Pay attention, Anna." So the guy is obviously a maniac. I actually have heard him interviewed on podcasts and whatnot. He is a right-wing asshole. So these right-wing fascist copaganda TV shows that, perpetuated this, cops are great and they're your saviors, this whole police state narrative, pushed that so hard for so long, such successful shows. It kind of came to the end during the 2020 George Floyd protests. In fact, Cops was taken off the air. America's Most Wanted might have ceased earlier. Of course, that's back now.
Podcast shout out.
Nima Shirazi and Adam Johnson do what is, I guess, one of my top 5 favorite podcasts. It's called Citations Needed, where they deconstruct media narratives, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel, actually, trying to cover the media and just how ridiculous it is and how they're pushing these lies that I'm not sure anyone believes anymore. Maybe the most low information people. Episode 94 of Citations Needed, the goofy pseudoscience copaganda of TV forensics. Fuck. Getting old. Of course, America's Most Wanted. Cops is really cinema verite, just straight up documentary, going on adventures with cops, which would lead to live TV, also canceled after the George Floyd uprisings. Live TV, kind of a tech update of Cops, where they are broadcasting live and they have like 4 or 5 TV crews that they're going back and forth with 4 or 5 different departments around the country. And, going with whatever is the most violent and sensational stuff that they can find, which only encourages the pigs, of course, to ramp up a situation or create a situation. And then forensics, of course, even fingerprinting, kind of all bullshit. These propaganda shows like Law and Order. Aren't there several Law and Order shows, and they've been running for decades? A lot of that stuff analyzing blood splatter patterns. It's all bullshit. Prosecutorial smoke and mirrors, as Citations Needed would have it. On July 7th, 2020, there was a news brief from Citations Needed, the growing pushback to copaganda. There's a podcast called Headlong, Running from Cops, that did a critique of police serials. And then, Adam Johnson wrote an article called Time to Ban Ride-Along Police TV. The cursory understanding of these reality shows will tell you why they, and by banned, I didn't mean like the federal government bans them, although I suppose I wouldn't have a problem with that. Let's take these off the air. Yeah. And the reality shows like live TV, since canceled, they actually have contracts with cities and city police forces. So you know whose side they're on, obviously. So there you have it. I am a Generation X child of Fox TV. I loved it. Wasn't Star Trek Next Generation on Fox? I'm not sure. Saw the very first episode of The Simpsons. So my friend Andy was working at a Fox affiliate in upstate New York at the time, and they had advanced knowledge of what was coming, and there was some Simpsons swag to be had. And yeah, but it's a letdown. I'd be surprised if the ratings were any good at all for this rebooted America's Most Wanted. And without dignifying Adam Walsh or his idiot son too much, won't go into detail, but a serial killer was accused of murdering Adam Walsh. And 10 years after this serial killer died in prison, this guy was full of false confessions. He had confessed to killing 100 people. It turned out to only 8 or 10 were provable. 10 years after he died, they closed the case on the Adam Walsh murder, and they were like, this guy definitively did it. No DNA, no witnesses, no evidence whatsoever, except a rambling confession from 25 years ago from a mentally ill loser and psychopath. So, did John Walsh kill and behead his own son? Now, don't tune into America's Most Wanted, the reboot, because you're never going to find out there. I guess we'll never know. Goodbye.
5, 6, 7, 8. Goodbye. This is the end of the song.
Hey, you thought we wouldn't have a fucking Easter egg at the end of this episode. Well, you're fucking wrong. Let's talk about the t-shirt that everyone is wearing. If you go to the social media site TikTok, it's everywhere. This is a Nirvana, the rock band, t-shirt. And you see the Nirvana typography, or what is one of their logos, and then a smiley face. Now, the smiley face is inspired by the former Seattle strip club, the Lusty Lady. The Lusty Lady gave out little pink pins that said, "Have an erotic day." And it had a smiley face with like spiral eyes, as if, whoa, what am I looking at? The great thing about the Lusty Lady is that it was not a traditional strip club. You had to put quarters in and a window would go up. So there were no preverts, grabbing and grubbing on the girls. And I think people that work there certainly appreciated that. Like, imagine you're working at the Bada Bing strip club, and a lot of small business people are assholes, especially strip club owners. You'd be better off at the Lusty Lady than at the fictional Bada Bing. Okay, so we have that smiley face, and then the Nirvana logo. This all comes from the Bleach album cover. This was one of only 3 Nirvana albums, unless you count their live album. Their first album, I know I was in hipster college DJ circles at the time, and I heard cuts from it. But the story behind this, okay, so Lisa Orth, a artist, was working at The Rocket, which was a Seattle music magazine. I could go on for hours about this. I'm trying to condense it and be quick. So she was designing the Bleach album cover for Sub Pop, the record label. And it's a very simple cover, not much design there. There's a photo and then the word Nirvana, of course, the same image that you see on all those t-shirts everywhere that are the current fashion craze. So we had a striking photograph by Kurt Cobain's girlfriend, Tracy Marander, reversed out as if it were a film negative. It's kind of very similar in style to Charles Peterson, the renowned grunge photographer whose, gimmick was black and white flash photography catching the hair shaking in action. Before I forget, Lisa Orth does incredible original tattoo work. You can find her on Instagram. She did kind of dabble in NFTs recently. That was a disappointment. Also, like digitally generated art bullshit. And of course, Charles Peterson went all in on NFTs recently. It's sort of sad. Like, here's an NFT of the photo I took of Nirvana. Okay, dude. Jason Everman, who was kicked out of Nirvana, is in that photo. So anyway, Lisa needed that Nirvana part typeset. So she went to the Rocket, and their typesetter, Grant Alden, typed out Nirvana in all caps in whatever was already installed in their typesetting machine. I think this is before they were using a Mac, right, for desktop publishing. Probably a Verityper image setter. I know I was a typesetter at an alt weekly in upstate New York and fired from that, but that's what we did, and you had to swap out fonts. And so that is how the Nirvana logo was born. It's a Bodoni Extra Bold Condensed, also called Onyx in type libraries. Okay, this has been the Doomed Planet Podcast, episode 107. Fuck America's Most Wanted. That's the working title. Next time around, we're actually going to be covering Pornhub, the pornographic website. And that should be titillating. So come back soon. Bye.
But what's changed from when you started America's Most Wanted to now?
A lot has changed. The technology is improved. We have touch DNA now, better enhanced, all kinds of tools for catching the bad guys.